So welcome, welcome. You are joining us for end of year fun with Flipgrid, and this is the K to 3 session. So we are excited to have you with us this evening. My name is Tammy. I'm a grade 5 and 6 teacher out of Montreal, Quebec. I'm one of the contractors with Cobblestone Collective, and I'm working this evening supporting all of you in the chat. So if you have questions, drop them in there. And if there's anything that you may need, I will side search for you and take a look and do my best to answer your questions. And also let Jen know if there's anything that somebody needs again. So welcome to your learning this evening. Again, this is being recorded so that you can go back and learn at your own pace along the way. Thanks for joining us. And I'm handing off to Jen.
All right. Thanks, Tammy. So hi, everyone. Hi, my name is Jen Giffen. For some reason tonight, Teams doesn't want you guys to see my face. So I have to present like this. When I'm sharing my screen, it turns off my camera and I can't turn it back on, but I have a solution, and that is Flipgrid. So right now, you see down along the bottom here, I have, well, down along, my mic is getting in the way. Down along the bottom here, I have the Flipgrid recorder. That's why I look like this, but that's good because then I can show you what we're doing as we do it. So sometimes you'll see me, and sometimes you are going to see, my cursor there, our slide deck, and that's just fine. Tammy has thrown the link into the chat for you already. It's this cc.page/June Flipgrid Fun. Welcome. You are the K to 3 crew. I am going to tell you this is the same presentation I actually did with the 4 to 8s because I think you can alter things slightly. I'll spend a little bit more time on what you think you can do with the littles. I am Jen Giffen. I am a teacher librarian in the York Region District School Board just north of Toronto. I'm in Richmond Hill. I'm actually a high school teacher, so I teach all 9 through 12, but I have 3 littles of my own at home. So I have a son in grade 5 and twins in grade 3. And to all of you, I never put my twins in the same class because I think that's super mean. So I'm sure a lot of you probably appreciate that if you had siblings in the class. But I'm very curious to know what grades are represented here. I know we said it's K to 3, but some sort of older grades may have snuck in, and that's totally fine. But if you want to put in the chat while I'm going through here at the beginning and doing our intro stuff, what grades you're teaching this year in our last couple of weeks with them, I would love to know. Grade 2, 3, awesome. 2, 3, so cute. 2, virtually, normally 2, 3. Okay, great. Grade 3, 3, 4, New York Catholic. Oh, hello, neighbor. Kindergarten. Oh, Sharon, God bless you. God bless you. So before I became a teacher librarian a couple years ago, I was in a district role. I was a digital literacy consultant in the board. And I remember working with some kindergarten classes because it was a K-12 position. And I would go in and be like, what is going on here? It was like the craziest thing to me to have to like navigate all these kids, and you're trying to read, and like I feel like it was like, and I'm like that's how I felt, right? It's like this, like what's going on right now? And they're like playing with my feet, and I'm like, this does not happen in high school. So God bless all of you who are teaching the very, very littles. 5, 6 FI, I'll bienvenue. The beautiful thing about Flipgrid, and I'll tell a story near the end, is language is a huge thing that we can track in Flipgrid. And teacher librarian, yay! In the fall, yeah, I know. I'm sure that the teacher librarian role would be awesome. I didn't realize you don't have them at all in Quebec, Tammy. No, that's too bad. It's a great role.
Not at all. I'm a teacher librarian in hiding in Quebec because we have librarians.
See, it's sad.
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel.
All right. So let's get started today with a land acknowledgement before we do anything. It is very likely that you are participating on or near the traditional lands of one of the many Indigenous groups here that we have across Canada. I would like to acknowledge that I'm on the territorial land of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Wendat people, whose presence continues here to this day. I'd also like to acknowledge that I am on the treaty land of the Mississaugas of the Credits, and I want to thank them and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us so we can do this learning. One site that I love, if you haven't explored it before, is native-land.ca. I actually have it open. I'll flip over here. And it's it's a map, it's Google Maps, but they've taken off all the colonial aspects of it. So you could like zoom in to where you're from. So most of us are here in Canada. I'm sorry, and you can see they will tell you the territories and the languages and the treaties. But in order to find where you are, you really need to know the land at its heart. And when we're talking about having land treaties and really coexisting with the Indigenous people and valuing their learning, I think this is a really great tool to start that sort of inquiry. So I do encourage you to check that out if you're so inclined. I know I've done it with my own boys, and they're like, oh, maybe it's here, and we try to find different places that we've traveled, places that we vacation, and then places that we have homes or families. It's very lovely. Okay, so moving along, we are here as Cobblestone Collective contractors. We do, as Tammy and I said, have other positions in school districts. So we're here as practicing teachers, which is great. Sometimes you come in, it's like someone who has been out of the classroom for 10 years or whatever. And you're sort of like, oh, have you been here recently? And I'll tell you, like, as much as I'm a teacher librarian, this year I'm a shelved teacher librarian. They got rid of the roles of the teacher librarian because of our virtual schools. And so I was redeployed into the classroom. So I have been teaching grade 11 and 12 English, as well as a grade 11 leadership course all semester. And so I've been able to put into practice a lot of stuff, including fun things to do with Flipgrid. So I'm happy to share some ideas here with you this evening. We'd also, of course, like to thank Microsoft Education, because without them, we would not be here. They provided all the funding, and that's why it's free. That's why you're going to get a recording afterwards, all that fun stuff. So thank you very much to Microsoft. It's also why we're using Teams. You may have come in before in some of our workshops and used Meet instead. And because Microsoft is funding this, as we do, we're going to use their tool. So if this is a new tool to you, welcome to Teams. It's pretty robust, and it can be a lot of fun. They can do some neat things. So you might see things in here that you're like, oh, I wish my tool did this, or oh, I wish it had this tool that mine had. We can never be perfect in everything we have. What I do want to talk about before we begin, though, is the Microsoft Educator Center. These are free courses and resources, and you can earn an MIE, a Microsoft Innovative Educator badge. And that's today's code. And why do you need a code? Because if you put in 2 hours of learning on this website, and today's counts as an hour, you can actually get this badge to share, with your friends, your family. You can take it out like dinner parties if we ever get to have those again, and show it off. Like I don't know what you do in your spare time. Like maybe that's the kind of thing you like to do. Maybe you're like, would you like to see my education badges? Here, let me just pull out my phone and scroll through them. But you can also just put them in your signature for your email. You can also talk about ways, if you're looking to enhance your CV, right? Ways that you have done some self-directed learning. And what I love about these, to be honest, I'm quite a googly girl myself. I'm in a Google district, and that's sort of the world that I live in. But I do a lot of these courses when I'm looking for some PD. I come in and I check them out. They have one that's about design with PowerPoint, but it actually can apply to any tool that does any kind of slide deck. So you can use it with, Keynote. If you're an Apple person, you can use it with slides. If you're a Google person, you can, of course, use it with PowerPoint. If you're a Microsoft person, or wherever you want, like even just making posters, it's really good. And as you'll see here, there's 3 little icons there that have the Flipgrid logo, and there are some like Flipgrid stuff. So if you have never used Flipgrid before, this is actually not an intro to Flipgrid session. I'm going to dive into it and assume that you know the tool. So if you're like, okay, these are good ideas, but now I need to know how to learn it, I absolutely encourage you to visit this Microsoft Educator Center, take one of the courses, and then by the end of that course, and after this, guess what? You'll have your badge to show off at the parties. It's so fun. And I will keep coming back to this throughout the evening. So if there's a time where you're like, okay, I don't want to build this now, but I want to explore what other learning I can do, feel free to jump into that at any point. Make this learning relevant to you. Before I start anything, I like to set a tone, and the tone I like to set is one that's a little bit silly. So, hey, Tammy, I didn't change it from last week. I forgot, so we're just gonna have to go with the same one. But did you hear? Did you hear that Elon Musk was gonna open when he got up into space, he's gonna try to open a restaurant on the moon? Did you hear about this?
I didn't.
Yeah. Critics are sort of a little bit wary. They're like, you know what? I'm sure the food is going to be fine, but you know what? There's gonna be no atmosphere. Get it? Oh, yeah. I don't know what it is about dad jokes, but they just make me so happy, man. And I'm not a dad, I'm a mom. Okay. So today's plan is, as we've already started there, we're going to go over the Microsoft Educator Center. We're going to share some Flipgrid, how to share it with your students so that you know how to do that. And then then there'll be our ideas on different grids we can do with our students, and then also some bonus other fun activities that I'm going to allude to that you can explore on your own. And of course, don't forget to apply that Microsoft Educator code if you go exploring the Education Center. So the first thing I want to do is talk about how we can share how we can share in Teams. So if you create a Flipgrid, how are you going to do that? And I'm going to rely on the expertise of my friends, Joe and Kristen Merrill from Florida. And this is a 2-minute video they created that I'm like, I'm never going to be able to get it down this path. So here you go. If you use Teams, this is how easy it is to integrate your Flipgrid into Teams. Let's have a look.
Here. One of the great features of Flipgrid really isn't a feature at all. It's the ability to integrate seamlessly with so many other programs and applications.
As educators, we know the value of housing as much of our online learning in the same place. And in this video, we're going to show how Flipgrid and Microsoft Teams work together to make learning accessible to all.
It's important to note that to do this, you need to have your grid of topic already created before trying to embed into the Teams tab.
Start by opening Teams and situate yourself within the team you wish to share with.
Along with the top tab bar, click the familiar plus sign icon. This will allow you to create a new tab for the team.
When adding a new tab, you have the option to add many different applications. So you can either scroll down until you find Flipgrid, or simply type Flipgrid into the search bar in the top right-hand corner.
Once you choose Flipgrid, it will ask you to type in a flip code or URL. Now, the neat thing is you can share either a single topic or an entire grid with your students in this tab. So be sure to choose the flip code or URL that corresponds to either the grid or topic that you're trying to integrate.
Before submitting, you do have the option to post to the channel announcing the new edition of the Flipgrid tab. So select or unselect this as you see fit.
Once submitted, the familiar Flipgrid login screen will appear directly underneath that Teams window when the tab is selected.
And it is that easy for those of us who use Google as well. Oops, one too many. There we go. You'd simply, when you create your grid at the very end, you're going to come up with these logos at the bottom, and you can click that share to classroom. It'll pop up in a little window and say, hey, which class do you want to? And what do you want to create? A material or an assignment or a quiz or whatnot. You fill in all of your information right there inside Flipgrid and share it out and post it to your class or schedule it if that's what you want to do. So it's really handy for those of us who might be online. And I know those of us in Ontario are. And God bless all of you who are teaching K3 online, because I watch my kids and what they're doing, and they're like in the middle of a lesson, and then it's like, I wish one of my cats was in here, because they're just like, hey miss, look at my cat. I'm like, your teacher's in the middle of teaching, give her. And they're like, but she might be interested. I'm like, I'm pretty sure she's not, but I don't tell them that. So maybe you are. God bless you. All right, so let's get into the fun then. How can we use Flipgrid at the end of the year to engage our kiddos and give them some fun activities? So there's a few. This one is probably my absolute favorite. It's the emoji retell. Okay, you can let students get creative by doing retells of stories you've read that year or reviews of concepts you may have learned. Now, here's the thing. When you create a grid like this, not all ideas are represented, so they need to get creative and think outside the box. Now, here's what I mean. I've logged into Google, or not, I keep saying Google. I'm so used to that from my classroom, right? I've logged into Flipgrid and I've opened the recorder, right? So I'm going to close it down just for a second so you can see. So I've come in and there's a grid. I've called this one just for fun. I'm going to click that record a response, either of those red buttons, and that's what pops up, of course, in this in the recorder. Now, if you've never seen the student side, that's what it looks like. It's pretty easy. It looks exactly like if you've ever created a shorts in Flipgrid, or if you have created a little video to put as the media prompt. So from this point, if I want to do an emoji retell, I'm going to go into effects, and I'm going to show you all this because this is what you might have to guide your students through and show them. So I'm going to click effects, and under effects, we have stickers. Okay, stickers are key, and kids love stickers. Like, they love stickers right up to like the 11th and 12th grade. I find they get a sticker, like, it's a sticker. So then you come up here and it says, okay, search the stickers. And you can see I've already before created an emoji story using some of my emojis. So what story do you think I was retelling based on what I have under there in recent? Any guesses? Give people a second. This is okay. Hold on. There we go. Oh, Julie got it before I got to play a lot of my Jeopardy. Yes, I was retelling the Three Little Pigs, and you can tell because I have a wolf and I have a pig. Now, here's the thing. If I search the word hay or straw, I guess it's straw that they use, right? If I look up a straw, I don't get anything. Well, maybe I could say I could get really creative. The kids get really creative. I could do this. So I could be like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back, and the first thing I want to do is I'm going to put my text on here, and I'm going to say, this is a story of the Three Little Pigs. Now, of course, I'm a little bit particular, so I'm going to want to like capitalize my words here because it's the way I roll. And then I can take this and I can roll down here and I can hit my record. Sometimes this gets glitchy. Don't panic if I'm a little bit behind because I'm like recording within a sharing of my screen. It may not, who knows. I think I'll be okay though because my camera's off. This might be a blessing in disguise, Tammy. So I'm going to start recording. It's going to count me down and I'm going to say, I'm going to tell you the story of the Three Little Pigs. And then I'm going to hit that record button again. And our students, if you've used Flipgrid before, should know this, that will pause. Now from here, I'm going to go and I'm going to maybe they don't want to be seen in theirs, right? So I'm going to choose the board and I'm going to say, I want it to be, oh no, I don't want that grid. I just want something normal. Where's they've put all these new grids in. It's so exciting. I'm just going to use a white background. Now, why am I in half? Well, I could stand in this half and tell the story over there, or I can use this slider to slide over and I don't have to be, I can be full screen. I can be, I'm just going to go away though. I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to go back to my emojis that I find under stickers. And I'm going to also look for, I'm going to put that in for now, because this is one thing I tell my students when we're doing an emoji retell, like load up all of the emojis so that you're not searching for them, so that you have your plan, because then we're doing planning. And let's be honest, I know that kids in those K3s, Ks maybe not as much, they can draw some pictures, but certainly my two little guys in grade 3 can absolutely do a little bit of a plan ahead of time, right? They can say, okay, I want to do this, so I need to look for straw. I didn't find straws, I'm going to use these straws. It's not the same, who cares? But then I'm going to take that out. And then when I go back into recents, when I come in here, again, you'll see that the straw is there. So if they load up all of their emojis ahead of time, it can make their work really easy later. So I can say, I'm going to put in one little pig, and then I'm going to duplicate the little pig, and then I'm going to duplicate again. That's the top left. You can show students that. And I can say this. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to say, once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs, and the 3 little pigs decided to build a house. But not one house. They each decided to build their own house. The first little pig, well, he decided to build his house out of, I'm going to pause so that it appears. I'm going to go back to my effects, and I'm going to say straw. I might want to make that smaller. Of course, the students, like, they may rush through this. Who knows? Some of them get really creative. I'm actually surprised. I've done this with students in, I don't think they're in grade 3. I think they're 4s and 5s, and they got so creative, especially if you give them a whole bunch of time. And so, the marks are in. So it's like we've got nothing but time these days, right? So we do that, and I say straw. And see, he lived right near like a big garbage dump, so he was able to go in and get all those straws that weren't recycled so that he could save all the turtles, which was really super fun. And we're going to let them get a little bit creative with that, right? Like they can make up things like that. I know that's not the real story, okay? Don't put it in the chat, say, hey, listen, high school librarian, that's not the way the 3 little pigs go. I know, okay? And then, so we say, the second little pig decided to build his house out of, I forgot to move him, so that's why I made that noise there, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. So I hit the second little guy is going to build it out of wood, but I don't have wood, so we're going to just say trees. Okay. And there we go. Wood cut down from the local tree yard, which wasn't very nice because he didn't ask, but that's okay. We'll come back to that later. Okay, that's the second little pig. And the third little pig, well, that third little pig, he was very clever and knew that the straws and the wood wasn't very strong. So he decided to build his house out of, I have to pause, and then I'm going to go back in one last time, and I'm going to say, this is the closest I'm going to get to bricks, I think. So there we go. I can go there. I'm going to say bricks. And you see, the first little pig, he got done really fast. Ha, 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 I'm so done. And then he went off and he played. And then here, like the students could get really creative and say, okay, what could I find for like a toy or something? See what I get. Do I get anything? Okay, he can play with a little bear. That's good. He's going to go play with his little bear. There, okay. And the second little pig, well, he finished quickly too. Ha, 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 I'm done. I'm going to play as well. Pause, add the next sticker. And again, I'm going pretty complex because I'm an adult, but our students could do this in any way they want. There we go. And the third little pig, well, he worked hard all day long. Now, look what's happened to me. I only have 2 seconds left at the top. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have a part 2 on this. I'm going to have part 2. But if we go through here, I can say, okay, next, and it'll give me, I'm going to tell you the story preview of the 3 little pigs. Once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs, and the 3 little pigs decided to build a house, but not one house. They each decided to build their own house. The first little pig, well, he decided to build his house. So I'm going to pause it there because I love that. See, notice when I moved it, it moves, but you don't actually like see my cursor anywhere. I love that. So when I actually do this later and, you know, if I have part 2 and the wolf comes, you can take those pigs and blow them right out of the screen. And it's very exciting for the students. Now I'm going to just hit next here, and then the students can put their names. They can even change that to the 3 little pigs as told by, told doesn't have an R in it, but as told by Jen Giffen. Good. And then I can put it up, and I can do a whole bunch of things here. I can select a frame instead. I can be like, yeah, I don't want to see me. I want to see the pigs. That's what I want to see. 3 little pigs. Yeah, confirm that. And that's what's going to show up. Awesome possum. I can submit that. And then guess what? It's going to be sitting there on my board. And oh, right now, see, your video is hidden because I have, I've set it up so that it's monitored, so that this teacher has to look at it ahead of time, because you never know what they're going to put. But like a few of you have said in here, you don't only need to do stories. They could do a retell. Let's say you learned about, I'm trying to think of things that my kids, okay, and simple machines was something that my kids in grade 3 learned this year, right? My own children. So why not have them create somehow a simple machine? Show me how a simple machine would look and retell that here with just emojis. Again, they're going to get really creative. They're going to have to go through a lot of them. They could even like chat with a partner if they're face-to-face or online. You can put them into breakout rooms if you have that ability. It's a really cool way to get students engaged and sort of do that storytelling, but in a really creative, outside of the box way. I love it. I find that students really love it, and they can get really, really clever about ways they do things, like the straws and how the straws, he lives near a dump and he saves the turtles, and who knows, maybe they could do some cross-curricular stuff there too, right? Maybe you learned about that in science. All right, that is number 1. I'm going to give you some time to build, don't worry. The second one that I love is breaking news, and breaking news also happens here in Flipgrid. So one of the things I love about Flipgrid is how fun they can be, and under effects as well, you have the options for frames, and that's the last one. I always go backwards on this right there. I guess you could see that big orange hand too. Can you see the big orange hand there, Tammy? Is that okay? Good. I just want to make sure. Beautiful. So if they scroll over, there's this news report, and look, and then it comes up. I can get rid of this, and oh, it's breaking news. And you can have students retell things that happened this year, either things in your class or things in the world or things, again, that they learned, however you want that. But they can do it like a news broadcast, which is super fun. The other thing they can do is they can start recording, right? You can be like, let's pretend there was a big snowstorm. Chaos ensued today on the streets as we were hit with, and then I'm going to pause it because look what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over here a little bit. And then I'm actually going to go over to Google and I'm going to search snowstorm. I'm going to look for a picture. Why am I going to look for a picture? You're going to see for in a second. So I'm going to go here. This is also a great opportunity to teach students about, responsible downloading and whatnot. At this point, you'd be like, hey, boys and girls, did you know if we go to tools, and my own children do this all the time now, and they tell their friends because they're like, Mom's going to get mad if we don't use Creative Commons licensed pictures because she's a librarian. I've heard them say this. It's hilarious. But you can go into type here. So what I did was I went to Google Images, I'm in tools, and then I can, usage rights, and I can say Creative Commons licensed. And then I know I'm using ones that I am allowed to use, which is always good, right? That digital citizenship lesson. So I'm going to come in and, I like this one. Or maybe I like, who else? I like this one. So I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to save this picture. I'm going to save the image as whatever. I'm going to think for a second. Beautiful. And then back in Flipgrid, notice I'm over here. It comes over. Come on back over. Oh, we're going to get the spinning wheel of doom. Hopefully I don't get that for too long. If I do, I'll pop out and pop back in. It's thinking. Oh, Tammy, this is what it did to me last time.
I'm trying to, we don't see your spinning wheel of doom.
I see my spinning wheel. What do you see on my screen? It's spinning. This is what happened to me last time.
We see nothing. It's just a white screen at the moment. So your JPEG is downloading.
It is.
You can see that in the bottom left-hand corner.
Okay.
It should be done because it says 4.7 or 4.7.
I'm not being patient enough. This is a problem with
You're
me
back.
there. Oh, that's a good face to freeze on right there. All right, and I'm back. Okay, beautiful. Come on back over here. So now remember I started my thing. Now I'm going to get the white screen again. And what I can do is I can insert that image. And when my screen comes over in a second, I'm just going to be a little bit patient. This is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to stand here and be patient. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Now I can come in and say add effects again. And instead of being in frames, this time I'm going to choose photo. It says, okay, let's add a custom sticker. I don't know why they don't use the same language. It actually quite bothers me, but I can come in here and say, okay, go to downloads. And it is there. I'm going to open it up. And so if your students have little pictures that I can now put this above my head here on the side, just like this, and then continue talking. I think the last thing I said was that they were surprised this morning when we were hit by a freak snowstorm out of nowhere in June. Who would have thunk it? Not us. Let's go to Jen on the street. And now this is where I can get really clever with students. They can then get rid of this. They can change their frames. Right, so they're just going to turn it off now, say no frame. And if they have something around, this is when I often will pull out maybe a snow shovel or have them listen, as a parent, I don't want them running around my house getting our snow shovels and bringing them in so they can do Flipgrid videos. But as a teacher, I think it's amazing. So they can go, right? They can go and they can find something and they can change their position, be okay, I'm going to be over here now. We're going to turn this around. And now I'm Jen on the street with my microphone, even though I have a microphone here. I know it's weird. I have two microphones, but that's how it's going to roll. Hi, yeah, here we are on the street and it is snowing like crazy. And then we can go on from there. And of course, now I go back and forth and I can be like a news broadcast and they can tell different kinds of stories, things that happened to them that year, things that they learned that year. And it's another fun one to sort of get them to feel like news anchors like they might see when they're watching with their folks at home. All right. The next one that I want to do really quickly is the Guess Who. So we've built some really robust learning communities, I'm sure, this year, be it online or in person or a little bit of both. So you may have learned things about one another that you didn't know ahead of time in those community building. It might be I was the one who accidentally fell asleep that day in class, right? Like poor little Kingston does in one of my kids' classes. Oh, he's so cute. And they're going to bed late and they're doing whatever. Or they have I was the one that always raised my hand first, and they have to guess. Well, you'll see here that in Flipgrid, the other thing that they have is not in frames, but instead in filters, the very first one. Students can scroll over, and there are two that they can use for this. There's the one that looks like the Lego block, which turns me into Legos, or there's the one that looks like pixels, which turns me into Alex from Minecraft. And I can play a Guess Who game. They'll have to disguise their voice a little bit. Or if you are learning at home, they might have someone else do the voiceover for them, but you can give clues. And then what happens is as soon as they post their clue, you can turn on the feature so that they can respond to one another. And they can either do that. I don't know if you know this, I'm going to turn off this filter so you're not just looking at pixelated Jen here. But one of the things you can do now is not only respond with videos in Flipgrid, but you can also respond with text. And you can turn that on in the settings of your grid. So you can say, okay, allow for text responses, and then students can watch the video and guess which student it is. And it can become a little fun guessing game for them. I love that. It builds community not only at the end, but it's also something you might consider doing at the beginning of the school year as well. The last one I want to show you before we actually like dive in and allow you to build a little bit, because I realize that we're at the bottom of the hour and I want to have some playtime, is advice for next year's students. I don't care if the student is in kindergarten or in the 12th grade. They know what happened this year and they know what worked for them and what didn't. So why not allow them to use that expertise and offer advice to next year's students? So like, hey, incoming grade threes, in Miss Burns' class, I want you to know that this is what you need to do to be successful. She really likes it when you raise your hand to answer a question, or make sure that, like in my kids would say, make sure you don't put a lowercase I when you are using the pronoun because Mrs. Giffen goes crazy. I do go crazy. I find that drives me crazy. You're in grade 12 for crying out loud, put a capital I. And so this is a great way for them to finish off their year and think about what they know, but about you and about the procedures of the classroom. But it's also a really fun way to start in September, to show these videos to the students who are incoming, right? You can say, hey, last year I had these students, and we always look up. Remember, I'm sure you see it in school. I remember when I was in school, you look up to the students who are the year ahead. They're like, oh, the big grade, whatever the grade ahead of you is. And it might be a sibling in there. It could be a neighbor. And you'd be like, oh, I know that. And we're building community and sort of having that familiarity right from the onset of class. So offering that advice from the beginning of the year from the students this year can be really helpful. And it's a really fun activity to do with our students at the end. My tip there is I suggest that you tell them the number of pieces of advice to give, so they're not super short. So they're not like, make sure you ask to go to the bathroom, and they have like a 10-second video. But that's totally up to you how you want to do it. So I'm going to actually pause there. I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. And in that time, Tammy and I are going to try really hard not to talk. In this time, there are a few things you might want to do. You can set up any of the grids that I've talked about so far, because we want you to have them ready to go even tomorrow if you wanted to. So you maybe set up a grid that's all about an emoji retell. You could set up a grid that's about, breaking news, guess who, or advice for next year's students, right? If you're like, okay, I have that, but I also sort of want to learn more about Flipgrid and maybe check out that Educator Center, feel free to dive in there too. Remember to put the code so that you get the credit. And I'll try to be quiet. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be quiet. But I just want to acknowledge what Charlotte has said there. You had them write out the info. Oh yeah, right. See, how fun would that be, Charlotte? You get to see and you get to see their faces. And if we have these, and you could continue adding to that grid year after year after year. So imagine doing this for like 5 years and having kids who are now like in the 7th grade when they were little, and how cute to be like, that's my neighbor and he's now 12. Like I think it would be super fun. Anyway, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes, and then we're going to come on back and I'm going to do some other ones that are probably a little bit more robust in that what we would be asking our students to do. So they may not be great for K3s, but you might be able to pivot them a little bit to make them work for your crew. But let's do 5 minutes of building and exploring now. Okay, that's the end of 5 minutes. And that was fun playing. This is what I have to do in order to not do things. Thank you, Tammy, for indulging me in my charades game. When you put TikTok, I almost started doing Tammy, are you on TikTok? Do you know this like Whitey kid, William White? Have you heard of this kid? Oh, if you are on TikTok, you have to check it. He's 21 years old. He lives in Kitchener. And he's like this, he's a model and he's super handsome and he's singing all
Oh,
the
I've seen it.
old
I've seen it. I'm not on TikTok, but I've seen it. And I
oh
was
my
like, oh, yeah.
he kills me. Oh my gosh, every time. So I was gonna do the like little shoulder roll and like wink and stuff, but I don't think I can pull off Whitey as well as Whitey can. All right. So let's carry on and think about what else we might do with our end of Flipgrid, your end of your Flipgrid fund. So another thing you might want to do is a valedictory address. So we know at the end of high school and at the end of elementary, like 8th grade often, right? And at the end of 12th grade, we give valedictorian addresses. I know this because humble brag, I was valedictorian in my high school, which now is so funny because I'm like, okay. And I think back and I found my speech a little while ago and I was like, oh gosh, right? What we write when we're in high school, the angst. It's very funny. Anyway, but why does it have to be one person? Why not allow everyone? Yeah, there we go. Yay, Lindsay. Why not allow everyone to have a chance, right? Because I said things from my point of view, from what I remembered, what was important to me when I was in high school, but that wasn't necessarily inclusive of all the voices in my school. So if we're really going to talk about being inclusive and sharing our experiences and amplifying student voice, I think allowing every student an opportunity to say their goodbye, give some parting inspirational words, especially in a year where we may not have like yearbooks in the same way. Why not allow them to do a valedictory address? And I think this could be done with littles. Am I right? I think you can say, hey, listen, what would you say at the end of this year for people, to warm fuzzies and how you remember it? And how do you want to remember it? Almost like a time capsule for your students. And then you can watch them all together afterwards. And some really cute ones, especially if they say things. What I love about Flipgrid is you can go in and you can share those, right? You can hit that share button and send them to a teacher or send them to a family member and say, hey, this is what this child had to say about their experience that may have included them, right? Love it, love it, love it. Another thing that you might want to do is and the award goes to. Now, I will say that and the award goes to takes a lot of prep ahead of time, right? So there's a few ways to do this. The way number one is to come up with a list of things that you could award in your classroom and then students could vote. You could set up a Microsoft or Google form, collect some votes, you can tweak the results if needed, and then have people give out awards. Or you could assign everyone in the class a different student and say, I want you to think of one thing we could award this student for. What is one reason this kid deserves an award? So maybe it was that they always remembered to turn on their camera when they were asked, right? If that was something that you were doing in your classroom. I know that some people are not forcing cameras on, which is fine. It could be this person never was told to you're on mute. You're on mute. Like we're a year and a half into this pandemic and we're still, you're on mute, right? It could be they always wore their mask every day when we were in school. Never they never forgot their PPE award, right? We can make them silly. Or it could be, this was the person that did the best read alouds to us. This was the person who shared so much and supported our classmates, whatever you want it to be. And what we do is we have the students record videos as though they are the presenters, right? They come up to the mic and they're like, okay, in this category, we had many, and they might name some other students and and the award goes to, and then they reply at the end. Now, you can also set this up so that you have replies aloud with video, and then the winners, once all of the awards are done, the winners could then go back in and record their acceptance speech. I would really like to thank the caretakers for helping me that day that I dropped all that mud on my shoes and they helped me clean up, whatever it happens to be, right? Whatever these kids are doing and whatever they're getting awards for. And the sillier, I think, the better, because it's a fun time of year to be a little bit silly. All right. Dear Teacher is another one. This is a book that I found recently. It is called Dear Teacher. It's by Paris Rosenthal. And if you actually go to the link here where it says video, it is the author reading parts of the book. And it's a beautiful book to give actually to a teacher as a thank you at the end of the year, to add to their library. And it's just, dear dear teacher, thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for helping me in a variety of different ways. And I'm thinking, okay, that's great that we can give this book, but why not hear it from the student themselves? So set up a grid. and say to your students, who are teachers or adults who have helped you through this year? It's been a really different year for a lot of us, right? Who is it that you want to thank, and why do you want to thank them? And you can have students start by like writing this down, and then they can read their script, but you see their face, right? So we have this whole grid called Dear Teacher or Dear Adult, whatever you want it to be, because I don't think it's always the teachers. Like I said, it could be a caretaker, it could be someone in the office, it could be a parent, it could be a student in another class who maybe did some tutoring with them, be it virtually or face to face. And you have them create this grid, and you might tell them, okay, you can leave one for me, but it doesn't have to be for me. In fact, I think for me, when I think about having like, Rotary, which I'm sure a lot of you do, and you have people cover for your prep periods, maybe you write to them, like, let's write to the gym teacher, or let's write to our music teacher, or let's write whoever is covering your classes. And then you can share each of those videos with that teacher. Like, what a lovely way to end a really difficult year. Like, how much would you love if your colleagues put something together where you just got a couple of little videos at the end of the year from the students saying thank you? We often get those handwritten cute little letters at the end that maybe mom or dad or caring adult at home has asked them to do, but seeing their face and hearing their voices, like, that is something to treasure, right? And little things that they may not even know that they made an impact on that student. So I really like that idea, and I think it's a nice way to pay homage to our colleagues after this year. Okay, I think this is the last one. This one actually comes from the Discovery Library, and I want to give a shout out to Ann Cosma. Ann is a friend of mine, and she works for Flipgrid. And this is the video yearbook messages. So I'm going to click on this, and it's going to open. If you don't know about the Discovery Library, you got to check it out. So if you're new to Flipgrid, or even if you're not new to Flipgrid, you can come into the Discovery Library, and I'll show you how to get there in a second. And when you click on a topic, this comes up. It says, okay, here's a virtual yearbook. Even though the school year is ending, it's very different. And it sort of lays out exactly what you would type in Flipgrid on the left. On the right-hand side here, it says, okay, how many times has it been used? Here's some tips on how to use it. You can save it to a collection. So you're like, oh, I might use this later. So if I hit save to collection, and I can say, okay, I want to save it to which one? End of year with Flipgrid. Yeah, that's kind of a good idea for end of year. Or I can add the topic to an individual topic. I'm going to say next, and watch what happens. It's going to come up in a second, and it's like, okay, here you go. Well, Anne set it up like this, but how do you want to set it up? And I can now go through and personalize this however I want. Like, I might not use her piece of media. Maybe I'm going to use my own. She's maybe set it, where's my time down here? She's maybe set it for, a minute 30. And I'm like, yeah, no, I only want 45 seconds. And I do want people to allow, this is where you do the comments, by the way, text comments that they can respond that way. They could like sign a yearbook. That would be good. And maybe I want to put some external links of some sort. I can do all this sort of thing, update the topic. And then lo and behold, oh, there was an error saving. Why didn't it like me? What did it do? Oh, I need to say where they're from. So I might say anyone@gmail.com. We don't want to do that, of course, with our students, because then anyone can get on, but I'll just use it for this purpose for now. And now I've created this, this topic without having to actually create it, right? What have I done? I've stolen it. I've sort of stolen it, but that's what the Disco Library is all about. So how to get to that, in case you don't know this, is when you land in Flipgrid on the admin console, which is the teacher side of thing, on the teacher dashboard, you can come over to that second tab there. It says Discovery. And you could even search right now, end of year. Now, these were all created by educators and shared in. They're then vetted through by Flipgrid, and then they add them to the Disco Library. And if I just type in end of year, notice that there's 37,000 topics. Oh, it doesn't like this. We found 530 topics for me just by typing end of year. And I can come through here and be like, here's some end of year things. What could I do here? That's sort of different. I know at the beginning of this year, I actually had students do an activity that's like a letter to myself at the semester end, and they kind of forget about it. And then one student talked to me after class. She goes, remember that thing that we did? I'm like, yeah, don't worry, they're coming back. And I send them back to their grids, and I'm like, hey, why don't you go read what you said to yourself at the beginning? Did you reach those goals? They set some goals for themselves, and they have to go back and reflect on that as part of my leadership course. And it's a really cool way to do things. And I can get a ton of stuff out of this Disco Library. So I'm coming here and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this. There's all these things. And I don't need to reinvent the wheel. The Disco Library is fantastic for that. And the video yearbook messages are just one idea out of the Disco Library that you might find. I was going to give you a little bit more time, but before we do that, I think what I'm going to do, Tammy, in the interest of time, is just show the bonus fun now. What do you think? Do you think that's okay, or do you think we should give a couple minutes? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I think the bonus fun, to be sure that we get to it would be, yeah, let's do the bonus
Okay.
first. It's like
Let's-
dessert before like the main. I
Oh,
think it's a good idea.
okay. Okay, good. No time to digest. Just jump right in for the ice cream. Love it. Okay, bonus fun. Now I'm not going to walk through these in great detail, but I wanted to bring them to your attention. So different things we can do with Flipgrid that you might want to do at the end of the year include something like a flip hunt. A flip hunt is a Flipgrid scavenger hunt. It was created by Kathy Krasnowski. She's an educator in the US. She's awesome. She has such great ideas. She's a great follow on social media. If you are following along in the slide deck, you can click her name and it'll take you to her social media. Basically, you have challenges that are listed in an attached document, and all users can play by posting videos. So I'm going to see, this was working last week early, and then they shut down what you could. Oh no, this is I did change it. First of all, can we just talk about the fact that the creator is Stormy Daniels? Like, is that a weird coincidence? Like that poor person. Like after everything that happened in U.S. politics, to have that name, I feel bad. Anyway, this is a gratitude flip hunt for the end of the year. So what you do is you post something like this up, and you say to students, okay, I want you to find all of these things. And they might have to like walk around with their device or bring things to their device and say, okay, find something that makes you happy. So they might hold up like a teddy bear. Find something to give someone else to make them smile. So then they might go out and find like flowers that they have in their house and be like, this makes you smile. The other thing you can do with these flip hunts is you can say in the document you create, that's an image that you do, but you can also just attach a document, be it a Word document or a Google Doc or Pages, whatnot. You can say, okay, you get X number of points for each one. And then as a class, you can watch it and say, okay, let's count how many points we have, especially with our little learners when we're doing math, right? We can say, okay, they got 15 points for that and that. So how many points do we have? And that's like some good addition review. I'm thinking for especially like our Ks and ones, which could be a lot of fun. You can also do some like fun math in there when they're developing that. So I love flip hunts. They're really cool. I love to use them when I go on field trips with students, but I think we can do them now. And especially if they're at home, have them do like a little scavenger hunt through their house. It's cool. You can also do Flipgrid escape rooms. Now, these were new to me when I actually went to develop this session a few weeks ago, when they asked me to put something like end of year fun stuff, because they're like, hey, Microsoft has some funding. We want to do some end of year things. Would you do Flipgrid? And I love Flipgrid. So I'm like, yeah, of course, I'll do some Flipgrid stuff. I went looking and I found this. And again, my friend the Merrills were talking about how to do breakout rooms or escape rooms inside Flipgrid. First of all, how fun does that sound? It's a little robust to get your mind around it, so I'm not going to dive into it a lot, but basically you set up grids, and once you post to one grid, you get a message sending you to the next grid, and you just keep on going and posting your answers and whatnot, and it's a lot of fun to do. The other thing I discovered when I was exploring the Discovery Library is that not only, well, I already knew this, not only do they have teachers, but they also have partnerships with organizations, and one of them is Breakout EDU. And if you don't know Breakout EDU, it's awesome. So here's the thing with Breakout EDU. It's like an escape room. If you've ever done an escape room, right, you're locked in a room and you have to solve all the clues to get out. Well, like I want to be honest with you. You shouldn't be locking students in classrooms and telling them you're not getting out until you solve the clues. You're going to get in a lot of trouble. I don't want that to happen to you. And neither do the creators of Breakout EDU. So what they did is they created a box, and you sort of break into a box by solving clues. And they have a digital platform as well, which is awesome. And they've actually partnered with Flipgrid so that you can do some of them for free. That I didn't realize. So there are some free games, but there are even more here. And if you click on where it says here, see Breakout EDU in Flipgrid, it will take you to the Discovery Library, where they've posted a whole bunch of different topics and such. And it'll say, okay, here are the breakout games you might want to try out. And it tells you what the community age is. So if you scroll down, you should be able to find some for elementary school ages 5 to 10, and even like kindergartners. So you can go in there and have them. You can just, again, this is a Discovery Library. Remember what I said? You're just going to click it. You're going to reuse that post, and you're going to send it out to your own students. And what they do, if we come in here, I'll show you one little one here. I haven't tried this one, so let's see how it goes. So it says, okay, what they have to do in Flipgrid is say how they did on the breakout, but then on their own, when they click the link that's attached, it takes them to Breakout EDU, and it says, okay, let's solve some things. So here's Dino Explorer. And you're like, okay, let's do Dino Explorer. In preparation, this is what you have to do your first lock. So it gives them the thing. It says, okay, from crack to zigzags, plane to stripe, a different dinosaur will hatch from each of these eggs. So enter the combination. Like, oh gosh. Okay, so from cracks, 1, 2, I'm going to guess 3 because there's 3 cracked eggs, to zigzags, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then from plane, 1, 2, it looks like 3 again, to stripes, 1, 2, 3, 4. And yay, look what I did. I just broke out of my first lock. So that's how the breakout works. So students can come through, work on this on their own. You've taken this from the Discovery Library, and then they can come back here to the one that you've done and say, okay, what was the hardest one? Which one, if you were to add a new one, what would it be? Which was your favorite and why? And they can leave you feedback on how much they liked those breakouts. So those are quick, ready to go ones, and they're all done. The Discovery Library does allow you to search by grade level, which is awesome, possum. All right, those are those. The last one is mixtapes for growth. And in order to really get the idea of this, mixtapes allows you to take previously recorded responses from different students and put them onto another grid. So let me give you an example here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to find, where's mine? I'm going to find, here we go, Learning Flipgrid. So I'm going to come into this group. So if you've created a group of, Mrs. Giffen's grade 3s, I can open that group if it allows me. There we go. And it can search it by topics, but you can also search by students. So if you've been using Flipgrid all year, and this is more an activity for you than it is for the students, but you can go back to students here and see the list every student. There's 26 students that have viewed this or are in this community. It'll show you their videos. So if it says, okay, here's Jen's videos, I can go in and click the videos and it'll show me Jen's 11 videos. Okay, just mine, et cetera, et cetera. So I can be like, oh, here's something that Jen did on November the 1st compared to something that Jen did on June 14th. Now, this is where we have our, a few of you said that you were FI teachers. So what can we do now? We can go and say, here's something how you were speaking French in November versus June. My kids are all in FI. And when Bennett was my oldest, was in the 3rd grade, the twins were in the 1st grade. I remember him coming home being like, Mama, I have to redo this story. I have to redo this, my homework. I want to do it right now. So Bennett has an executive functioning disorder, he's ADHD. And he allows me to share this story. I've asked his permission. And he was like, Mama, I need to do this right now. And he there was no waiting. And I was like, okay, I can't do all this. My husband worked downtown and he wasn't there. And it's been a lovely thing through all this. He's here to help with homework. And I'm like, what am I going to do today? I can't do all this. And I said, Bennett, I'm going to teach you how to use Flipgrid. So I set up a grid called just Bennett. That was it, Bennett. I said, I just want you to read here. Read it, and then when I'm done with your brothers and the little bit of homework they have to do, then I'm going to come and I'm going to watch your video with you. So you don't have to read it live. You can see. And the beautiful thing is he had multiple opportunities to be able to improve. So the very first day I do this, I go and I help his brothers. I come back 10 minutes later and I said, okay, I'm ready to watch your video. He goes, you can't watch my video. I was like, what do you mean you can't watch your video? And he goes, Mama, I sound weird. And I said, oh, honey, we all sound weird. And I call it the Morgan Freeman effect. Like the only person on the planet who actually thinks they have an okay voice is Morgan Freeman. There's pie charts to back this up. And I'll find one after if we have time. And so he says to me, he goes, no, I read and to the end of the line, not to where the period is. And I sound like a robot. I need to do this again. And he went and he recorded it again. And he wouldn't let me listen to it until he got it right. Well, then cut to the end of the school year. And he's hysterically laughing one day as he's doing his reading that he's supposed to do to an adult on his Flipgrid waiting for me. And I walk in, I'm like, what is going on? Like, why aren't you doing it? He's like, I am doing my Flipgrid, Mama. He's like, you should hear me speak French. It sounds so funny. I'm so much better now than I was then. I sound so dumb. Listen. And I'm like, okay, well, don't make fun of yourself because you just improved. But I had this moment of, here's this kid in the 3rd grade having this really moment of metacognition about how much he's improved and he's seen his improvement. So I think mixtapes can be awesome for that. To add to a mixtape, in case this is something that you're interested in, I've just got to find the right tab because I have tabitis and 4,000 open here. All you need to do is go to those 3 little dots, which I lovingly call the Timbits because they look like 3 little Timbits in a row because I have 3 kids. So we always have 3 of everything. And you're going to just go to add mixtape and you can create a mixtape for each student. And, for some of your students, the growth that they might see, especially our students who might be a little bit down, our students with learning exceptionalities, our English language learners, our second language learners of any sort, it might really boost them. And then again, that whole mixtape you can share with different stakeholders in their life which I think is so awesome. If you want to learn more about mixed tapes, it is listed here. This is slide, I don't know which number slide we're on right now, but it's sort of near the end there, and there is a video embedded on how to use them. It's quite easy and straightforward and great for our kids. So one last time, I do want to plug that Educator Center. Go on and use today's code because you do get an hour credit for today's work that we've done, and that'll help you get that badge to show off at parties. We still have a few more minutes here, like a minute left. If there's any questions, I'm free to stick around if you want to sort of build a little bit to make sure you know what you're doing. But thank you very much for joining us. I hope you have some Flipgrid fun at the end of the year. I hope you can use some of these activities with your kiddos and that they can do some really creative stuff and share and amplify their voice. Tammy, I'm going to throw it back to you. Thank you so much for your support in the chat.
Jen, thank you. And everyone who was learning with us tonight, thank you very much for joining us. I've dropped a link in the chat. We'd love to hear some feedback. So please jump in if you have a moment. Complete the feedback. We always love listening and learning from all of you. And if after this you're tinkering away and you're trying to figure something out and you're like, I can't remember how Jen did, fill in the blank, please be sure reach out to us at help@cobblestonecollective.ca. We're there to help. Somebody behind that email will be happy to problem solve with you. So hopefully you're walking away with an idea and something planned for tomorrow or next week or whatnot. I know that it's a lot of Jen's ideas. I was like, oh, hey, I'm going to do that with my students too. So even today they started working on their yearbook because